Please give me your name and your title.
Kandeh Yumkella. I am the Director General of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization.
Excellent. Now, you've put out this report which talks of a major breakthrough. What exactly is this breakthrough?
Well, within the context that for 20 years we've been talking more about financial engineering in global markets and the expansions there, we're very pleased to see that global leaders, political and economic, are coming back to talk about the real sector, meaning manufacturing. And our report is timely because we provide some additional insights and intellectual underpinning about how manufacturing has helped other countries reduce poverty significantly, particularly in the past 20 years. And
That's not very new, though, is it?
It's not. It's not. But
because there's been a lot of talk about countries in Africa and other developing areas focusing on refining as opposed to just exporting their raw materials.
We go beyond just looking at what we call downstream value addition to resource-based industries. No, we are saying do more than that. Diversify your economies, like the middle-income, fast-growing Asian economies and some in Latin America have done. Because here we introduce what we call trade-in tasks, and that's part of the innovation here. We have documented how small countries, middle-income, and also middle-income countries have not specialized in trying to produce a whole product. They've just specialized in producing part of a product, a component, and how this has made their economies boom. And we've given specific case studies, which we believe is relevant to African countries, that they can specialize in certain aspects of the value chain, what we call trade-in tasks. We also challenge the fact that when people talk about Africa, poverty alleviation all the time, we say, no, talk about wealth creation now. Help these economies diversify into manufacturing, create wealth and jobs in their countries.
What's the difference between poverty alleviation and wealth creation? It just seems to be a paradigm shift.
For us, it is because, I have been in the development business now 2 decades, and I have seen some practitioners in Africa and some in Asia. In Africa, there's too much obsession with the poverty side, which is more like missionary kind of interventions at the village level. So I say make a distinction between helping people weave more baskets and make them real, produce other higher value products. So for me, that's a clear distinction because in Asia, their leaders, their business people talk more about competitiveness, investments in infrastructure, expansion of industrial estates, linking them with global markets. You don't hear that same debate in sub-Saharan Africa, even with development practitioners.
Now, you also talk about preferential trade agreements, and you seem to be suggesting that aid does still have some relevance to Africa and other, poorer regions of the world.
Yeah. Aid is critical. We need more aid, but it's how we use the aid now. We believe that, yes, significant investments in infrastructure and energy, but also this dimension of wealth creation, greater support, direct support to the private sector is critical.
But the whole problem with the World Trade talks and with various other forums like the G8 has been, trade, not aid. This is what civil society has been arguing for.
We believe you need both. You need the trade. There's no doubt, and we've explained in the report how the content of trade preferences matter. If you, in some trade arrangements, there is more incentive for commodity trade rather than trade in higher value products. And we've given some examples about this difference, that if you provide signals and encouragement and more direction in, for example, aid for trade, then you can open up markets and provide competitiveness. Now, some argue, I know recently some have said, oh, you don't need more aid. You do. The level of development in these countries requires that we need significant aid to build institutions.
Just to make the level, just to create a level playing field is what you're saying?
Yes, just to bring them up. I was just in the AU summit. Our estimate is that we need about $80 billion from 2010 to 2015 just to help bring infrastructure at a significantly improved level, so Africa, sub-Saharan Africa.
This is the roads and
the
various
roads,
other
the bridges, the
networks.
port facilities, building certain institutions. Yes, $40 billion for new infrastructure investment, $40 billion for maintenance. You need aid. It is still very, very critical.
Now, you're asking for emerging economies to industrialize, you're asking developing countries to go back into manufacturing, to build up their capacity. But you're doing this, one, amid a global recession, and two, where there is now more concern about the environment, climate change. And as we know, Africa suffers disproportionately from the effects of climate change. All these other Western countries were able to get to where they are now because there were no restrictions on what they were able to do. They did not have to think about the environment. How does that factor into your findings?
It factors in because we also advocate for an industrial development that is more environmentally friendly, based on clean technologies, based on renewable energy. We don't believe that Africa, for example, should repeat the mistakes of the 70s. And there are ample opportunities now. If you look at the stimulus packages everywhere now.
The ones in the US and the UK.
Yes, they talk about green investments. They talk about a green stimulus. Barack Obama's presentation of his stimulus package just last week, he talks about investments in renewable energy, industries of the future. Africa can tap into this. Some of these technologies are readily available now. So we're talking about an industrialization path that can be greener and cleaner. Also, we make a case at the end of chapter 1 here that Africa should consider, if we're going to pay the highest price for global warming and climate change, pollution that we did not create, they better also diversify into goods and services that are not climate sensitive. We make that case in the end of chapter 1. Well, again, manufactured products, higher value products. So even within food, it's not just commodities, it's a value-added commodity. So you move along the value-added chain, not just to be dependent on exporting cotton, which is rain-fed. We advocate that, yes, you must invest in high-yield varieties, drought-resistant varieties, and so on, as part of the adaptation strategy. But the story does not end there. You help these economies become less climate-sensitive. And manufacturing has part of that promise, provided, obviously, you have all the enabling conditions, infrastructure, good policy, low cost of doing business, and so on.
Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thanks.